All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to start talking about how to properly use output and input in Java within your actual program code. So again, to get started, we're going to go ahead and create a new file to deal with this topic. I'm going to create a new class. I'm going to call it input output output, and then we're going to go ahead and create our file. So again, I think the extra comment section up here is pointless, so I am going to get rid of that. And I'm going to go in this comment and go ahead and write what this file is for. So testing and using input and output in a Java program. All right. So now that we have that started, again, we know that we need our main method to run anything. So public static void main string args. Okay, we got our main method ready. So now we can start coding inside of that. So first, we'll go ahead and start with our input. One thing you need to know and remember is that when you're working with input, you have to import your scanner class. So to do that, you will go outside of your class, outside of your main method. So pretty much at the very top of your program is where you would go. And you see here, we are pretty much showing that we need to import our scanner class. So we're going to go ahead and do that. First, you say import, then you would say java.util, and you see it's popping up on my end, dot. And then on NetBeans, it shows you all of these different classes that are within this Java util package. Yes, you can technically use all these packages in different ways, shapes, forms, program, code, but in our case, we just want to go to the scanner, and there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in, scanner. So now we have our scanner class that we can work with. So to go back to our main, we're going to go there, and then we need to basically create a scanner object. All right. To do that, we first type scanner, and then you're going to give it a name. So in this case, I'll just name it input. Then we'll say equals new scanner. And then to finish it off, you say system.in so it knows system input. And then you're ready to go from there. Okay? So right there, we've created a scanner object. Now that we've created one, we need to then utilize it to collect data from the user. So the first thing you want to do is print a message to the user for what to enter. So print a message to the user for what they need to enter. To do that, we are going to use our output or our system.out.println. So system.out.println. So we got our standard print statement. From here, we are then going to place our text within quotes that we need to show to the user for them to enter their information. So for example, if we tell them to enter your age, enter your age, and add a space. So now we have a print statement. Then we need to store the user's input for age. So to do that, we would then need to determine the data type of the input that we're expecting from the user. In this case, we know that age is a whole number, and we know whole numbers are integers, so we're going to say int. Then we're going to give it a variable name. We know the value that we're going to store is about to be age, so we're going to say age. Assignment variable, and then this is where the input comes into play, or your scanner. So input, to use it, you would say input, because we already have that named, and you see they are both highlighted now in the green, followed by a period. And then you see it gives us these options. In our case, you see those first few options say next byte, next int, next short, etc. We know that what we're collecting is a integer. So what we would do is type the next int and then follow it by the parentheses and semicolon. So just by stating this this variable and this .next int and attaching that to input, we're basically telling our scanner that the variable age is going to hold whatever the user is inputting, which we're expecting to be an integer. So once that happens, pretty much it's going to collect the information. Now, if we were to run our code from right now, it's not going to print out the age because we did not print the age to the screen. So what we can do is print user age input by doing another print statement, system.out.print mime, and then we can add some text to it. We could say your age, add a space so it doesn't combine together, and then we're going to add a plus age. So now this is going to print to us what the user's age is. So we're going to go ahead and save that, and we're going to run it just to test. So you see here it says get rid of some of those. It says here enter your age. So if you click, you see that the cursor is blinking and it's telling us to enter an age. So we'll just put in a random number, click enter, and then you see it then printed out your age 36, which pretty much matches line 21 here. So that is an example of using your scanner and printing out the information. Now, if we were working with text, for example, so asking a user to enter their name, which is text, we would pretty much reuse the scanner we created, and our scanner is called input. So what we would do is say string, because string represents all of our data, or our text data, I should say. So we're going to say string, we're going to give it a variable name, which we're collecting name for this, and then what you're going to do is say input, which is our scanner object, dot, and in this case, we're going to do next line right here, semicolon. So scanner is basically going to expect text. Up here, our scanner expects int and stores to age variable. And this one will expect text and store it to the name variable. All right, now moving forward, we're going to say that we want to print the user name. Name. So what do we do? System.out.print oops, print line, and then we're going to say your name is, add a space, add a plus sign, and we're going to say name. All right. And so now that will print their name. So again, to test this, we're going to click save. We are then going to come here, run the file. It's going to go through. So one thing I want you to notice is that when it runs, nothing's going to happen unless you put in input. So basically it's going to stay wherever the input is expected until you enter something into it. So for you to continue working with it, you have to come down to your output, click on it, and then the cursor will appear for you to enter information. So we'll again enter something. And then here, it automatically, in this case, just skipped over our input. I probably clicked it too many times. So let's take a look and make sure everything's clear. So string name equals input, which is our scanner, dot next line, which is correct. And then we're telling it to print that out, which we did not get to happen. So let's test it one more time. Yeah, so this one is skipping on us, which sometimes that can happen as well. So for this example, just to test the print statement case, we'll go ahead and do this. Comment that out. Comment that out. And comment that out. So basically what I'm doing in this is a example of debugging. So what's happening is I'm pretty much going to comment out things that I know work, or if you make changes and all of a sudden your code no longer works, it's probably because of the last thing you added. So what you can do is simply go back, add a comment, and comment it out so it's ignored, so you can check the current state of the code or test a certain feature. So that's what I'm doing here. I commented out the ones I know works, and I'm coming to retest. So I'm going to run that file. You see here, it pretty much ran it. It skipped, but it's not showing me anything. In this case, it's not showing me anything because, voila, I never told the user to enter any information in. I totally skipped that. So, see, walking through that process, I've now caught my mistake. My mistake is I never technically asked them to enter their name. I wrote the comment, but I didn't ask them to enter their name. So I'm going to do that here. So I'm going to add my system.out.print line. And then we're going to say enter your, oops, forgot my quotes. Enter your name. All right. And then we're going to try to rerun our code. So save it. We're going to run the file. So now it says enter your name. We're going to enter Tom, for example. Click enter. And now it says your name is Tom. So now I did some debugging. I fixed my errors. And in this case, you see that there really was no error messages that showed up. It was really just a mistake or something that I missed or overrun because I was moving so quickly. So sometimes your errors are not always going to show up, but basically it's not running as I thought it should. So we're going to go ahead and go back and uncomment the ones that we need to use. And so it will be this one because we want that print statement to show up. We want this one to be uncommented. And we also want the message for them to enter their age to be uncommented. Now that we fixed our issue, we can come back, we can run our file, enter your age, okay? So again, you see it's pretty much skipping over our scanner. We have it set up so that it should allow you to run it recursively or run it nonstop because you have one scanner and we're trying to reuse it. But now it's basically skipping over the step where we can enter our name in. And that's the issue why we're not seeing anything here, because it's skipping that step for us to enter in our next name. So that is what we are going to fix now. So when it comes to fixing this issue, sometimes it can deal with the placement of how you are presenting your input. So basically, for example, if I would have placed enter your name first, um, it probably would not have encountered the same issue, because sometimes when you're working with the scanner, it can be a little tricky. So when you're working with next int and next double or next boolean with a next line, um, with the scanner object, basically what can happen is the scanner might see that you're entering, for example, what we did here, we entered 13. So the scanner sees that we entered 13. So when we press that enter to add it to our code, we're basically saying add a new line after the 25. So 25 new line is basically what we're doing after we enter our age. So what happens is the scanner will only read the number, and it basically leaves that new line or that enter that we placed in the scanner. So basically it's leaving a blank response in the scanner. And that's what's going on. So when we came here, when it was time to enter our name, it felt like it already had a response, which was blank because we clicked enter from your age is 13. So basically, when we call the next line here, or where we call in it here in our output, basically it's reading that leftover new line instead of waiting for us to input something else. So basically it looks like we got our input skipped over, but technically it's just showing that enter that we placed when we put in our 13. So to fix it, or a simple way to fix it, is to add one extra scanner.next line to pretty much clear the scanner after we place our number into it. So right here, we're going to clear scanner, and we're basically just going to say input dot next line, like that. And then it's basically just going to take that enter that we had and place it here, so that when we are running it again, it will basically allow us, or should allow us, to enter our name in. But actually I need to place this after we tell it to print so there's no confusion. All right, so now that we have where we're clearing our scanner, we can try to run this. Well, actually, let me clear our output so we get a fresh run. Run file. All right, it's saying enter your age, 13. All right, it worked. Now it's telling us to enter our name. We're going to say Tom, and there you go. So now that has fixed our issue. So sometimes working with scanner, it can be a little tricky, and this does not always happen in all coding spaces. It can happen depending on IDE, or like I said, it depends on how you place your scanner usage. So if I would have put name first, it probably wouldn't have run into this problem, but because I'm asking for a number first, that's where it's seeing the issue. So that's what you can do if you ever run into those problems. Now, to show you the other use cases of the scanner, we could say asking a true false question And then we could say, for example, here system.out.println, are you a student? And then we're going to give them options, true or false. Then we are going to ask for Boolean input. So we're going to say Boolean student, and we're going to say equals scanner, or actually input because that's our scanner name, dot next Boolean. So that's going to ask them to input if they're a student or not. Again, we need to print Boolean output. To do that, print statement system.out.println, and then we're going to say student status. We're going to say plus that student. So that's going to print out our student information. And then to cover our other common use case, we're going to say ask for double input. So in this case, we want to do a print statement to say the following. So we're going to say, what is your GPA? And then we're going to go ahead and ask for a GPA to be entered. So here we would say double, because typically a GPA is a double. So double GPA equals input dot next double right here. And then we're going to print out entered GPA, which would be system.out.println. Then we can say student GPA is equal to plus GPA. All right, so now we have a nice interactive code. So this is all we have written, including our comments. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Then we're going to clear this out so we don't have any confusion, and go ahead and run our file now. So it's asking for our age. We're going to enter 15. Now it's asking for the name. We'll say Tom. And then it says, are you a student? So you see everything's working smoothly as expected. So we'll say true. And then it's asking, what is your GPA? We'll put 3.6. And then it shows everything smoothly. So again, the reason we ran into that error earlier is because after entering in our number, because we were not using the next line, it pretty much asks us to refresh. And that can happen sometimes, not all the times, but it can happen sometimes. So I just wanted to show that error so you know how to walk out of that if you encounter it. But this video overall has showed you how to work with input and output, real simple within your Java code. So going forward, you will continue to use input and output to make more complex programs and more interactive programs. So this is one of the foundational things you need to remember in this course. So hopefully this was helpful. It could have been confusing, especially when it came to having to fix that issue we encountered, but it's better to always show you issues you can run into during these sessions so that you know, like, it's common, and this is how you walk out of it properly. So hopefully you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next coding tutorial.